No. Okay, fine. Assembly Member Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to return to London's hospitality industry and nighttime economy. You've got to do your bit, and I agree with you on that level that it isn't just the last year which has driven these businesses to the brink. But the average business rate increase across the hospitality industry is so severe. The impact as well with dealing with that on top of the national insurance rise is unbearable for these businesses. And I genuinely think some sort of mistake has been calculated in the civil service here on how much this will impact businesses. Will you lobby for those businesses across London?
I mean, the cost of doing business in this sector is huge, and I recognise that. I've also been on record as saying some of the policies, not just of this government, the previous government, often when it comes to business rates relief, doesn't do us justice because of the rateable value and the cost, and before you get relief and so forth. I know businesses I've spoken to in retail are also struggling because of the cost of doing business. I can confirm not only have I been lobbying for this, I'll carry on lobbying in terms of the particular needs of businesses in London, the additional overheads there are in London, and the lack of support there is in terms of relief because of rateable values and so forth in London as well.
I think when we look at trying to make the business rates a fair playing field, some people will be concerned that what I think effectively Labour stated they wanted to do was even the playing field, especially target some of those big boys that own big warehouses. That hasn't come through in terms of the average rate. So I hope that you'll be willing to have a look at that. And in terms of working on the business rates relief and trying to get that to the maximum discount, I hope you'll do that. Will you be meeting with the UK hospitality industry and other industry leaders to see what asks they want from you?
Yeah, we speak to them all the time, and I speak to them all the time as well. They do a great job in advocating for their members. I think none of the points she's made in terms of the cost of doing business are points that we're not aware of, but I'm more than happy to always receive representations and advocate on behalf of this really important sector. It is a really important sector for us.
Thanks. So could I just take that as your door is open for further meetings in the next couple of weeks or so, maybe after Christmas?
We meet the chair and we speak to the chief and chief exec all the time, and members as well, and she'll be aware of hopefully, and they'll say the same to her, the great relationship they have in relation to not just this issue in terms of the cost of doing business, but other issues as well.
Okay, Assembly Member Clark.
Thank you, Chair. And hello again. I mean, it's clearly not just at Christmas, but all year long that Reform are taking the opportunity to talk down London. But I would expect for them to at least acknowledge the disastrous impact Brexit has had on our economy. Yet, despite that, they're pleased with that, actually. But yet, despite the disastrous impact of Brexit and the pandemic, London continues to outperform the rest of the country, but not just that. But we see that 13% of the UK's population is in London, but we're still producing 24% of the UK's economic output and delivering 25% of the UK's tax revenues and 36% of its exports. We could go on and on about stats about how wonderful London is, but you and I know that. I'm not sure everyone else in the chamber would acknowledge it. But just last night, I was at the opening of Shangri-La restaurant in Brunswick Park, absolutely spectacular, opened by a man whose father ran a restaurant in Brick Lane, one of these real London stories. We saw many of our high streets suffer under 14 years of the Conservative government. However, a recent report from Centre for Cities has shown that outer London high streets are performing more strongly than the national average. A few weeks ago, I was fortunate to visit the GROW partnership, which is funded by London and Partners, which is one example of how you are taking London's small businesses very seriously. How else are you supporting London's small businesses as mayor?
Well, look, can I just deal with the various points she raised in her question, which is, look, I'm more than happy, as we just heard from Senator Best, to take on board concerns businesses have and to try and address them. But when I hear people taking great joy in talking down our capital city, as some people do, it angers me and it upsets me, because I think it's unpatriotic, particularly when it's not borne out by the facts. I could give you a list of all the league tables where London is flying, not just in terms of Europe, but in terms of the globe, whether it's foreign direct investment, whether it's job creation, and other metrics we can use. Now, When I start listing the various successes, I'm asked not to take up time because they want to make this, anti-London point. But you're right in terms of how well we are doing. I'm not complacent. We can and must do better, which is why London and Partners, some voted against London and Partners. They want to defund London and Partners. London and Partners, and they say absolutely with great joy. When they discover it was Boris Johnson that founded it, they'll do a U-turn, I'm sure, in relation to this. But one of the things London and Partners has done is set up Grow London Local. And this is helping small businesses who want to set up, who want to get investment, capital, how they expand, and so forth. It's a one-stop shop for those small businesses. There's separately Grow London Global, which supports businesses expand overseas as well, so incredibly important. City Hall initiatives have helped with the private sector create more than 330,000 jobs over the last 9 years. They may want to abolish London and Partners and take away the support from businesses in London. I'm not going to do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's move on to a newer question. Are car clubs in London in the name of Assemblymember Baker?
Can I thank the member for her question? Zipcar delivered a significant portion of car club availability in London, and I'm very sorry to hear that it's proposing to seize its UK operations. I know this will have a big impact on many residents and businesses across London who have relied on Zipcar for cars and vans and van trips. TfL are working to understand how we can reduce the impact this will have. I recognise the important role car clubs play in providing convenient access for journeys which can't easily be made by public transport, walking and cycling. That's why I'm considering opportunities to collaborate with boroughs to address the short-term challenges of Zipcar leaving the UK's club market, including London, and longer-term solutions to support the sector. My Deputy Mayor for Transport, Seb Dance, and other Deputy Mayors have met with Zipcar and other operators to discuss this, and officers have also been meeting with key stakeholders, including Collaborative Mobility UK and the boroughs, to explore opportunities. I welcome the recent open letter calling for coordinated action between the GLA and London boroughs, and I'm looking at this as a matter of urgency. As the first step, I'll be setting up a further roundtable for early 2026 with boroughs to discuss key action needed to support the industry more broadly. While TfL has limited direct influence in the delivery of car clubs, it continues to support them in a variety of ways. This includes the promotion of car club offers it carried out through the ULEZ scrappage scheme, providing best practice for borough procurement of car club services, and highlighting car clubs as an alternative model to private car ownership. TfL will also introduce a 100% discount for electric back-to-base car club vehicles based in the congestion charge zone. Through borough local implementation plans, TfL provides funding directly to boroughs for car club measures through the installation of dedicated parking bays. TfL also included car clubs in its electric vehicle infrastructure strategy, which identifies car clubs as a key user group, and it continues to support London councils to develop their curbside management toolkit for boroughs, including on-street space for car clubs.
Thanks very much for that, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for acknowledging the impact that this is going to have, the potential withdrawal of Zipcar on the 1st of January, the potential impact on Londoners, on small charities, also public bodies, councils and others who do rely on car clubs and don't know how they're going to make certain essential journeys if and when Zipcar ceases to exist in London on the 1st of January. Now, I've been working on this subject for quite a while, and while I appreciate the measures that you've set out in your initial answer, there's no doubt that there remains a large number of barriers to operators running a successful model of car clubs in London. But to my mind, these seem to stem from one particular issue, that TfL, Transport for London, do not accept that a car club model where Londoners can use a car for occasional journeys and therefore don't need to own a car and therefore don't make as many car journeys, they do not accept that that is valid, and therefore they are acting as a blocker through their neglect of this policy area, because a lot of the things you outline are either haven't been done for a very long time or are questionable, because we questioned some of that in our Transport Committee emergency meeting yesterday, or make no impact at all. So as a supporter of car clubs, what can you do to unblock TfL acting as a blocker to successful car clubs in London?
Firstly, I don't accept that. If that's right, what's the reason they've left Brussels?
So all I can talk about, since I'm a London Assembly member, is the work I've done on car clubs in London extensively over the last year and a half that say there are a whole range of barriers in London, and I've now questioned Transport for London twice in Transport Committee, and both times their answers have indicated that they do not believe that this is a successful model. And I hear that they have not engaged. I understand that the last thing I heard, that TfL had not proactively engaged with either boroughs or operators since Zipcar's announcement of withdrawal. Now, that blows my mind, to be perfectly honest. So I do accept that there are a whole load of issues, but on a London basis, Transport for London are not doing what they can to support this model.
Well, let me be quite clear. I push back at the assertion that TfL are blockers when it comes to car clubs. Now, she's made the assertion. It's fair to stand it up. I don't accept that.
Okay, well, then you're then you're going against our Transport Committee report. I was told yesterday in Transport Committee that only one of the recommendations had been turned down, but in fact all three of the recommendations, no action had been taken. No proactive action has been taken this year at all by Transport for London on car clubs. I'm afraid that's just a fact. There's been no awareness raising since ULEZ, which was very, very minimal. This is the reality of it. And so I'd like to ask you another specific issue. So from the Transport Committee report from earlier this year, we referenced a patchwork approach to car clubs where different boroughs are effectively having to make their own arrangements with operators, therefore multiplying the amount of work that it takes to have a successful car club model. And including the negotiation of borough contracts. Now, for me, this is very odd, considering TfL are very interested in a framework for procurement for shared bikes, but they're not interested in insisting on shared procurement for car clubs. So, considering this is very urgent, we're about to lose 90% of our provision of car clubs, will you ask TfL to step in urgently, not in January, now, and help boroughs and operators coordinate procurement?
So my deputy mayors and TfL have met with Zipcar in the last few days and have set up meetings with boroughs to take place pretty swiftly, as I said, in early 2026. Zipcar at the moment aren't taking any further bookings from January 2026. Work closely with the boroughs. It's the boroughs whose road space is often required for these car clubs to operate in. We speak regularly with the boroughs. I can check the last time we spoke to the boroughs in relation to this. The members moved away from saying TfL is a blocker to now asserting TfL is not being proactive, which is different from saying TfL are blockers. I'm happy to take away the point about TfL not being proactive in relation to this to see what more TfL can do to be proactive. I do not accept TfL are blockers.
Okay, well, I've been working on this a long time. You can twist my words if you wish, but by their neglect of the policy area, they are acting as a blocker. That is what I say, and I stand by it. I'm really disappointed to hear that you won't take further action on this, because there are Londoners who are in genuine need, and a bunch of them are going to go out and buy cars, unfortunately, and that is not good when they don't need them. Back to you, Chair.
Well, I'm really surprised, Chair, that the member's not given full justice to those Londoners who rely upon car clubs by making petty points about TfL being blockers. I commend those Londoners who decide to use car clubs rather than be car owners. Often they've not got public transport alternatives like those in central London and inner London have. That's why it's so important. Those businesses, small businesses who rely upon car clubs are really important in this conversation. I'm surprised she's not mentioned those either. It's because of those Londoners, those businesses, we've worked incredibly hard with Zipcar, meeting with them. This is a private company, but we've worked really hard to meet with them to address any particular issues they may have. Zipcar have left the rest of the country some time ago. London is the only city in the UK they operate in. It's also the only country in Europe they operated. As part of the assertions made by the member, I'm surprised she doesn't realise that Zipcar left Brussels, left Barcelona and left Paris some years ago, but stayed in London because this mayor believes in car clubs, and we're speaking to all three of these private companies that operate in London because I can see their importance. It's really important, Chair, that when you have a public forum, you use facts rather than casting aspersions about TfL's willingness to work really hard with car clubs, who both TfL and I believe are an important part of the London transport story.
Assembly Member